not just women are in danger, but all marginalized people, where being uniquely different right now might truly be considered a crime. It seems as though we had all slipped into a false sense of comfort, that justice would prevail and that good would win in the end. Well, good did not win this election, but good will win in the end. So what today means is that we are far from the end. Today marks the beginning of our story. The revolution starts here. The fight for the right to be free, to be who we are, to be equal. Let's march together through this darkness, and with each step, know that we are not afraid. That we are not alone. That we will not back down. That there is power in our unity, and that no opposing force stands a chance in the face of true solidarity. And to our detractors that insist that this march will never add up to anything,
Boston Red here with Friday Java, a weekly magazine of political theory, polling, and commentary. It is part of the history called people that make up this fascinating journey. We are part of the Obama network. For that, we make no apologies. What we pledge to do is give you the facts on a bridge to history. What body politics is, the most up-to-date theories of political science and psephology. Stay tuned for this incredible ride. Boston Red, peace out.
Friday Java on the 15th of June 2018, coming to you from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network. Now we roll along here. Very interesting week we had the famous summit in Singapore between DJ Trump and the leader of the Democratic Republic of Korea, Chairman Kim, or Chairman Ohm, whatever you want to call him. Nonetheless, in the area of foreign policy, we'll cover this just briefly. You can read much from newspapers, various blogs on social media, comments by various people about what foreign policy is, and what the cookie cutter project. I've been reading a book by Stefan Hartler. He is the man that came in from a cold. He worked at Cambridge University, lectured there, and he was a consultant, or whatever you want to call him, for the British intelligence services and also the CIA. He was the person that gave information on the Trump campaign, or we should say various functionaries in it, to the FBI and who knows whom. Well, he wrote a book back in, I believe, 2002. Don't have it on the desk now, but America Alone. And what he laid out there was American foreign policy, roughly from the Nixon administration. When Nixon went to China, it was a big thing at that time. And now today, you wouldn't think about it at all. But it was, and some of the foreign policy advisors that were there, including Paul Wolfowitz, and various others. Old Bolton was around, and Bolton is still around. So what these characters were able to do was, many of them came out of foreign policy schools, whether it be at Georgetown or wherever, and migrated into government. And this is the point we're making here, is that there has to be some sort of basis for a particular foreign policy, although we don't do policy here. But we have continued to echo the Wilsonian foreign policy, and that is what they were following. That was with Woodrow Wilson, the racist, the man that resegregated Washington. He was also president of Princeton University, so you see where the universities are in the scheme of things. But he also was instrumental in the League of Nations, using those kinds of international organizations to the advantage of a number of nations, but let the smaller nations have a seat, if not being part of the conversation. That was a forerunner of the United Nations. Well, the United Nations obviously is there, and they have the UN Security Council, the General Assembly. General Assembly is more of a quote-unquote democratic, egalitarian, what do you want to call it, organization that nations get basically an opportunity to present various resolutions, and they're voted upon. But the action is at the UN Security Council, and there are 5 permanent members there, and that is part of what the settlement was for the Second War, which concluded in 1945. And you have the Russian Federation is one, the U.S., Britain, France, and sort of a rotating thing there on one of China's, they have veto power on everything. There's 4. And there is a 5th, something I left out, but nonetheless you understand what is going on there with the United Nations. Now, the United Nations is one of these organizations that there has been debate, conversation, what do you want to call it, on opening up the Security Council. These are ones with veto power. Now, there are other nations that rotate in and out of the Security Council at any given time, but a resolution can be vetoed by one. That is one organization. And then you have another relic around called NATO. And there's several of these other regional defense organizations, but NATO is a relic, and there was much debate about retiring NATO, because NATO came, North American Treaty Organization, came out of the Second World War, and we're not conducting the Second World War anymore. So these are old relations that involve primarily the European nations, i.e. Britain, Germany, France, Italy, and various others, and they even threw Greece in there. But they also expanded it to various countries out of the old Soviet Union, like Poland and Lithuania, etc. And now Norway is getting into the act. They want more Marines to be in Norway. Well, the point here is this goes back to the types of foreign policy that Professor Hoppler talked about, and this whole idea of the neocons, this worldwide aggressive program. And that's basically what they're using NATO. It's nothing different there. To contain the Russian Federation, to contain China. China was not in the equation in the early on, nor in the 80s, because in the 80s actually China was invited to military drills. They had an up-close look at various weapon systems, because that was the last, before the Soviet Union collapsed, to counter the Soviet Union. Now they're interested in countering China. But it is a new ballgame, And that gets us back to the summit between DJ Trump and Chairman Kim. The whole idea there is to start along a path of bringing these quote-unquote two Koreas together and to denuclearize. But the problem is many nations in the world that have nuclear weapons, why put the microphone, or the amplifier I should say, at the doorstep of the Democratic Republic of Korea? Very, very simple there. They now have a system that they can reach out as far as Los Angeles or Alaska. These are defensive weapons, not offensive weapons. But they will have you believe that. Thus, they used economic violence, and at one time, economic violence, of course, in Europe brought on wars, World War I, and also the Great War. So you have precedent for these situations. But countries that can perform economic violence, you have to have a larger economy, which DJ Trump was talking about the U.S. economy basically at about $15 trillion economy. That is about 50% more than China's economy, depending on how you measure economy. But they are working away at it, period. Thus, if you look at the sanctions, we can go to the Russian Federation. You can only put sanctions on an economy if the economy is less potent than your particular economy. But there are other caveats that are coming into it. For instance, Venezuela has decided they are going to a cryptocurrency. Now, cryptocurrencies are totally different situations. You get around the dollar and move to the cryptocurrency. Now, we've noted that big crypto factory in the Republic of Korea, which is known as South Korea, with some problems there, but it's in its infancy. The whole situation is where the larger banks are going to deal with cryptocurrency. They've all got into it, whether it be Wells, etc., Barclays, and on and on and on. And even at the Federal Reserve meeting, incidentally, on our numbers man this week in economics report, which is macroeconomics, we'll talk about the recent Fed meeting and moving up the interest rate 0.25 or 25 basis points. And they brought up of all things there how the Fed would deal with cannabis, because some states have those laws. And evidently even DJ Trump has modernized his view that states that have legalized cannabis, the federal government would not try to intervene. That wouldn't work anyway. So we have an evolution of many of the statutes, and we have some that are reactionary, regressive. An example, while we're here, the Justice Department litigating on behalf of religious or institutions, organizations, churches, synagogues, etc. That is reactionary because we have a secular economy. We've always had a secular economy. Those are some of the things, the little bells and whistles that you see out there, such as on also the environmental arena, the reactionary things coming out of the EPA. And so when we look at broad policy, is there progress being made in so-called foreign relations? Yes. But the verdict is out on this so-called America First. You saw Dennis Rodman there. You can label things anything you want, and you can change these labels to adopt to a policy. But this is basically a neocon policy that Professor Hopper talks about in his book America Alone, and you saw that in the G7 there. Now the tariffs are finally starting to take effect here shortly, July 1st. Now, when these tariffs come in, it will take a while for them to, as they say, move through the effective economies, and that in itself will have economic problems of things. And now to the unintended consequences, there are not unintended consequences. Books have been written on that, and the reason we got off a little bit on this was the summit. Now with DJ Trump, we're on a special program, the road to Oslo. That's the Nobel Prize for DJ Trump. In our opinion, we'll not get one just for the adventure in Singapore. But what happens in these wider summits, there is a lot of room to operate there. And progress is measured by whatever gauge one puts up. So there will be progress in these negotiations. Things will be done over periods of weeks and months and perhaps years. So that is one thing. But the other area that is not been attended to is the Mideast. And that can be attended to in a more simplified manner by simply reaching an agreement with the Palestinians. That would be the benchmark, because the Palestinians go along with it, the other Arab states will go along with it, and finally with Trump and Bolton and company, the Israelis will go along with it. Now what kind of agreement that would be? Well, it would be just basically an agreement. But in the name only, and this starts out, this is sort of like this whole media type thing. You start out with certain basic symbols and you work your way up from a symbolism. We'll talk today about the people from Charlottesville. It's Larry Sabato's shop. We'll go to that in just a second here. And there is a guest person there. I was looking at this a few days ago, so we get back to it now. And talking basically, what they're talking about is methodology with handicappers and what handicappers use for their programs, and here we go to it. Sites like the Crystal Ball at the University of Charlottesville. The reason we use that, it gives an academic approach, and of course we always remember Heather Heyer, who died at the hands of white supremacists and various other gangs out of the alt-right movement, which is in the White House. Nonetheless, this is a guest columnist here. Elliot Morris is his name. G. Elliot Morris, and two ways of thinking about elections, predictions, and what they tell us about 2018. There are differences in methods, accuracy, probabilities between the quantitative forecasting and rating-based handicapping. And on the week that was, we periodically bring in Mr. Cook, one of the best handicappers in America, and we also go over to Nate Silver's shop. So we do several. Let me just go to this. Two approaches of forecasting, one fully statistical and one rigorous yet flexible handicapping, produces different tools we can use to evaluate the battle for control of the U.S. House in 2018. Midterm. The Crystal Ball and other political handicappers use a quantitative method to generate ratings of individual seats using election news, candidate evaluations, and some hard data. Others use quantitative models. This would be Nate Silver's shop, to produce probabilities how likely it is for one party or the other to win each House seat. The quantitative model described below is more bullish on the Democrat House projections than the Crystal Ball's race rating, but both indicate considerable uncertainty. That's the 50-50. That's the state way of doing it. those following this year's House elections would be wise to take into account both the qualitative race ratings, like those by the crystal ball, as well as the quantitative models, like described below. The introduction to understand the difference between quantitative or data-driven predictions and those are made from traditional data-influenced handicapping. One should direct their attention to the names of two websites, the Crystal Ball, that's at the University of Charlottesville, and his blog called the Cross Tab. One is a reference to the smooth sales, a fortune teller who stray into their glass balls and derive the fate of an event by evaluating some known and some unknown facts. The other is a reference to contingency tables, common tool in survey research that breaks down responses to questions by subsets of responses to another. The name of mine and this website are concurrently described, descriptive, of the way in which our predicting method differs. In forecasting outcomes, there are both harms and benefits to the two approaches. This piece evaluates, get a little more light on my situation, the difference in the content of the 2018 midterm election and delivers some much needed attention to that which is common and not just contrasting between the two. Before I begin, allow me to highlight a guiding principle of this article, the contrast between my quantitative and the Center for Politics quantitative handicapping of the 2018 House seats. Is most of the difference between continuous predictions, those that assign a chance to an outcome between 100% winning or 100% employ to use their data to generate a probability of victory for Democrats in 435 U.S. House seats, and their chance of winning a majority of those seats in the crystal ball method that tells you that either the Democrats or Republicans are favored to win a particular race. Technically, the crystal ball method is a discrete method with set degree of certainty on both sides, but is more approximate to binary than continuous projections, keeping these differences between continuous, even better distributions, and binary discrete projections in mind. He kind of misses a point here, but we'll labor with him a little bit here. Inputs both my and the crystal ball method of predicting the 2018 elections are processes that one, take information called inputs, and two, do something with the information, and three, spell out other information called outputs. If you remember the ninth grade math, they are both called fractions. Dr. Seuss has a youthful explanation of fractions that I remember from high school or pre-calculus. After the rough categorization of the two factors diverge considerably. My model to forecast the 2018 midterm elections is probability, and a statistical model that takes in various inputs, outputs, meets sort of the same thing. The overall approach was developed by political scientist Joseph Baffanini of Dartmouth College and Robert Erickson of Columbia University, Christopher Wisen of the University of Texas at Austin, in their papers. He won't go into those. Here, this is a little bit dry, so some of it we're going to move around here a little bit. Predict the national environment in November of 2018. Generic ballot polling averages at this point in past cycles and continue with the average of special election swing against at this point in past cycles to generate the prediction of national vote on election day. The final projection has around a 6-point margin of error today. Previous candidate margin in the district, and so forth and so on. Simulate 50,000 election outcomes for each trial and vary the estimated national popular vote randomly according to the margin of errors of past predictions of the national vote. Vary your forecast Democratic margin in each seat according to error that is a correlation between districts. And on any given day, the numbers generated by, and that's his forecasting model, represent the best predictions we have of Democrats winning margin at the national level and in each House district, and the chances of those projections will err. Remember, these projections are continuous with outcomes occurring along a distribution of possibilities, and each having a specific probability of victory. In the end, I produce a data set of continual voter shares and winning probabilities ranging from 0 to 100. I won't go into outputs here. This is one of the more technical the past accuracy of seat ratings and forecast models. The big question everyone wants answered is how likely it is, say for a lean Republican seat, to be won by a Democrat. What about likely, better yet, safe Republican seats there? To determine how well the University of Virginia's election rating matches each outcome over time. I continue their historic ratings going back to 2004 with actual results in House districts made available by MIT's Election and Data Science Lab. We have a lot of big data out here. You see that the three certainly differ between safe, likely, and lean categories on both sides. Safe districts are less likely to see large upsets, and seats lean forward either or sometimes thought not frequently won by opponents. Overall, the ratings are relatively well calibrated. 89% of the rated seats are not categorized as toss-ups, end up being won by the party that is favored to win. No doubt. So in other words, you have about a 10 or 11% chance there cutting through some of this. Each of these categories also has a corresponding Democratic probability of victory for the seat placed in the lean Democrat seat. Democrats win 78% of the time, lean Republicans 16%, and likely D 95%, likely R's 3%, safe D 90%, so forth and so on. These values are plotted on the right. Anyway, we won't get into the figure. We'll append this article here. I'll kind of go through it here. Very long. And some predictions here. present different forecasts for different seats, given the different methods employed by myself and the team at the Crystal Ball. The difference in forecasting in 2016, one should expect there were variants in the predictions for November of 2018 as well. Indeed, there was some. The largest difference in our forecast, where a portion of the discrepancies can be explained by the inability of the quantitative rating today to adjust for movement in national environment, which my forecast does. And some can be explained by the quantitative method not taking into account the quality of some districts, nominees, and other differences related there. The future is going to win the majority. Above all, the main advantage of the quantitative model is the ability to simulate thousands of possible elections. Meat still does the same thing, and some which Democrats do better, some which Republicans do, and within the statistical range of error we observed in the past, and generated the final probability for the chance that the Democrats win the majority. In the current form, the House ratings is seen as a crystal ball, and elsewhere are not able to compete with that. Perhaps neither should they. However, the cool thing about us, interesting term, the quantitative extraction of the crystal ball seats rating detailed above is that it comes with everything we need to be able to plug into a simulated phase of the full model. This we can account for in the inherent error of the ratings while producing a national probability that the Democrats may win a majority in the House and Representatives. Better yet, instead of doing exactly what my model does, which produces some strange-looking seat outcomes due to inflating margins of error, transforming from seat ratings to average win margins. Now, closing thoughts. We finally got there. The piece, this piece, has reviewed the methods, history, and current projection of two different prediction models: the crystal ball and a statistical model for the fall midterms. I reviewed the difference in probabilities between the measurements and accuracy in 2016 elections, and even prognosticated about the future of the House according to the two variant processes. What is clear is that the two consider in some parts and are similar in others, very considerably. Not at any one approach is a gift to election handicapping. However, both his method, this is Morris, and the crystal ball for forecasting have erred in the past, and some of which caused each other's outcome, and some of which not. Now, within there is a variant to Cook report and the inside elections of race ratings, as well as those published by media outlets like CNN, all have disagreements, sometimes large ones, about the ratings in the key districts. The Economist also has differences in my personal method. While these differences can individually sometimes mislead, the true frequency lies between them all. Apart from the technical details, there is also important differences in how we conceptually utilize continuous and discrete forecasts, some scientific, some journalistic. This is really a as we head into the heart of the summer of this 2018 cycle, pundits, politicos, voters alike should take note of past, present, and future differences between quantitative forecasting methods and the typical race-based handicapping. In the past, holds true, the former will do well at producing precise probabilities for each House seat based on its individual characteristics, and the latter will do well in reducing large deviations from the forecasts that typically arise from issues with candidate quality and rapidly changing districts. Whatever method you pick, if you are leaning if you have learned anything from this piece, you ought to pick both, and the two are well-tested methods that will give us 90% of the way to see forecasting that will happen on December the 6th, 2018. The remaining 2 to 10% will make or break the house. Well, yeah, and again, that is historic. The late great Jerry Pippin used to talk about this. Roughly 90% of the people running for the House, unless they retire, resign, or whatever, are re-elected. It's usually the 10% that is doubtful, and then out of that model, there's a few percentage points there. So when you see, well, 50% here, the problem is major events. The party itself, we saw in a special election in South Carolina, Stanford lost out to the Trump endorsed candidate by a few percentage points, not very many, I think less than 2. So those kinds of things happen. There are local conditions there. There's also turnout. This is one of the things that has haunted the models for a very, very long time. And what happens if so-called registered voters that say that they're registered voters don't vote? Or if there is voter registration drives of those people that turn out, or basic groups that have had low turnouts, had higher turnouts. We've noticed from women, we've had higher turnouts than normal. Democrats in many districts have turned out. In some California districts, Republicans turned out. But that's only low turnout elections. And usually midterms are low turnout elections and not high turnout elections. So that is one of the things that all the handicappers know. What Mr. Cook does is he actually goes out and sends people out, and they talk to each of the candidates. And they look at various things, their fundraising, their media outreach. And today it's much more. It used to be you could look at newspaper ads, some TV ads that they did locally in their districts, and get it padded. But now you have social media ads, and you're looking at Facebook, you're looking at Twitter, you're looking at various other groupings and subgroupings. One of the things he did not bring in, there are groups, some that we work with, that specialize in things as Facebook. There's one group out of Australia, but very good at predicting just from using Facebook and Twitter, basically, with some of the social media that comes in, on how an election will go. And increasingly, DJ Trump and his Twitter feeds there, and where does this leave the traditional handicapper? Well, it is a traditional situation when you have a non-traditional campaign. One of the things we'll talk about in around the week that was an article in the U.S. Today about the African American turnout and the influence of pardoning. I'm not sure about Jack Johnson, he's around a long time ago. But the attempt to even pardon Muhammad Ali, who didn't need a pardon, but the pardon that Mirza Kardashian talked Trump into on Ms. Johnson, and that influence on the African American vote. Would that move some percentages towards DJ Trump? It could indeed develop into that. DJ Trump has been in that field for a very, very long time. He was one of the primary sponsors of the 1988 Jesse Jackson campaign. So he's not new to understanding the African American vote, particularly in New York and in these areas that they need to be understood. And he does have a good numbers department on the Purcell. So don't, as they say, disparage of that. And this is one of the big problems in the 2016 election, that the Democrats under Barack Obama had an excellent statistical department, but the monster Clinton did not. Nor did they act upon. Don Brazil wrote about this, and we talked about it in some detail as to where it was. Let me just look at some of the current things here. I don't want to leave anyone out. We usually go to the Washington Post, and then we'll talk a little about the we will do some special on the report by the FBI's officer, and where it is, that was on the FBI director Connie and Cooney, excuse me, his name right in a minute here, and his announcements there is criticized by various Inspector General, but found nothing criminal about it. And we're in the process of reading the 500-page report. We won't read it all, but we'll read part of it. There's another article here. Pence, that's the vice president, turns office into a gateway for lobbyists to influence the Trump administration. Numerous lobbyists have leveraged personal ties to the vice president in one fundraiser who had been a guest on Air Force Two. Today, this type of investigative journalism comes out very, very quickly, and it's in the news, and people wonder about it. Now, this is an interesting article here. Trump nearly up into the summit with abrupt changes. This is the Washington Post article here by Ashley Parker and Company. Karen DeYoung is involved. Some of the most intense drama surrounding DJ Trump's summit came not across the negotiating table in the days and hours leading up to the historic meeting, but a behind-the-scenes flurries of commotion prompted by Trump himself. Now, after arriving there on Sunday, and Artsy and board, Trump urged his aides to demand that the meeting with Kim be put up a day to Monday, and it had to be talked out on the plan. We're here now, the president said, according to people, why can't we just do it? Well, Trump's impatience, coupled with tense staff-level meetings between the two sides on Sunday, left some aides fearful that the entire summit might be in peril. Well, they were just fearful. And let's see what else is going on here. This is Henry Corvinus, maybe, Director of Defense Studies for the Center for the National Interest. Now, one of these think tanks, he described the Singapore extravaganza as 21st century diplomacy with a Trump twist. Well, yeah, we have to change things. At one point, after watching North Korean TV, which is entirely state-run, the president talked about how positive a female, and we covered her, Miss Yi, was towards Kim. And according to two people familiar with his remarks, he joked that even the administration-friendly Fox News was not as lavished in praise as the state-anchored media. One person added maybe she should get a job in American TV. Well, DJ Trump is all about that, period. The government release, this is the Korean government, Thursday. It shows Trump returning a salute of a North Korean general, drawing criticism from those who saw it as feeding into Park propaganda. Retired Admiral here, Kirby, Rear Admiral, Navy Admiral, spokesman for both the defense and called the image striking. We put that up on Facebook. It's been up there. Kirby told CNN it was inappropriate from a protocol perspective, yet most certainly doesn't do it with the leaders of foreign militaries and adversary nations, and exchanged salutes of two men shaking hands. Behind the scenes before the summit cover, dynamics also unfoldable. We get to see, this is one of the things you get to scoop now. The language of the agreement announced with Kim, for instance, was almost entirely pre-written before Trump arrived. We figured this, but Trump repeatedly asserted that the former agreement was based on his ability to size that Kim up well. Okay. DJ appeared to allude to the process in his news conference, but the 1.5-page joint statement, he said, was not something that just happened to be put together. It was done over months, yet at the same time the president said there was much that was agreed upon. So, kind of a long article here. And of course, Dennis Rodman appears in here. We covered Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman seems to be there. Louise Sunshine, a former longtime executive at the Trump Organization, laughingly described the summit as watching a reality TV show, between that the president deserved a lot of credit for simply brokering the face-to-face meeting with Kim. Donald represents the concept, she said, his focus on creating eye contact, a bond, a relationship. I don't think he was there negotiating, he was there to create a relationship. Well, yeah, okay. So you judge him on that. He ain't all worked out there. There's always subtleties on these agreements that actually are written in advance. They come with some post here, period. And they've been harping on this, some guy here, Josh Rogan, Trump's McDonald's theory for North Korea can't work without human rights. Well, the whole problem on human rights is the U.S. can't talk about human rights when they have police brutality from coast to coast, killing of African Americans. And the problem with this, and I think I talked a little bit about this, no matter what DJ Trump's outreach at the African American community is, symbolic, etc., they have some side issues that are very important. And a person pointed that out. Police brutality, number one on the minds of African Americans, profiling, and above that, the whole idea of voter suppression. And the Supreme Court did have a recent Ohio decision that allows the state of Ohio to scrub people off out of the voter rolls and vote in 2 years. Some of those people would have been Obama voters. So those are things that have to be cleared out and debated in the national context before 2020 and preferably for 2018. Also, a side note here, we'll talk about this, London Breed, she's the first African-American woman elected as mayor of San Francisco. She was on the board of supervisors, was the acting mayor. A political move ousted her, and there was a lot of talk that she would not be able in this racist ranked choice thing to survive. Incidentally, Maine now has ranked choice. We'll be talking about this on a similar forecast. Yeah. Here's an article here. Research finds that gay men are frozen out of top management spots. in North Carolina. Let's see what they're doing. Oh, passed a charter school. This is being very, very careful about charter schools. We've always opposed them. Critics say it's intended to promote a segregation of apartheid society in an effort to move back to the 1900s. There's something crazy coming out of the Olympic Games. We'll talk more about the Olympic Games that started on Thursday, and they'll run approximately a month. They're held in the Russian Federation. No mixed race babies. Please, Russian women tell Russian lawmakers to avoid sex with visitors. Well, good luck. So these are some of the things that are shooting across here. We'll do the sports now, and we'll have on All About Sports. We'll talk about the World Cup, something that we don't have as much in the news as we should. My ESP icon is ESPN icon is failing us. And big thing here, can the Lakers land LeBron, Paul George, etc. Well, a lot of talk there. You'll have a lot of talk. Yeah, don't know. We'll go to the World Cup here. We'll look at it. And let's see, the 14th of June, which has already started, through the 15th.
We're not even talking about you introducing as a last Kawhi Leonard into this. But cap room for the Lakers. Can they maneuver like this?
Yeah, they're well positioned right now to do it. All they basically.
This is the Lakers story. We'll get to the World Cup here. It's starting, and we'll go to July the 15th, daily match schedules, and so forth and so on. And we'll talk more about this. How to watch the World Cup. There's a lot of ways of watching it. Telemundo in the U.S., Fox Sports, etc. And in Africa, Freeware, Quasi TV. In Australia, they have SBS, Opia Sports, and in Brazil, various outlets on the UK, BBC, and ITV. Now, a lot of people that are using VPNs will be able to do this. We give this out, but they will be able to do it. And I'm assuming also that other things will occur there. And there are articles, we'll talk about this on the sports program, the bigotry involved. This is one of the problems the Russian Federation had. Hooliganism, etc., racism involved with their footballers, as we call them. And football is a very big thing in many countries, period. And let's see if we can get the daily schedule up here. And hopefully, what do we have out here? Well, at the present time, we have Egypt and Uruguay. They're live on Fox, I guess. Then we'll have Morocco and Iran. That'll be at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And then we'll have Portugal and Spain. So those are today. And let me just, we'll do Saturday. We'll have France, Australia. At 6 a.m. that'll be on some Fox station. We'll have Argentina and Ireland at 9 a.m. and Peru and Denmark. And then we'll also have let's see, Croatia and Nigeria. That'll be an interesting match. That'll be on a Fox station. And let me just, whoops. And we've had one. We had Russia and Saudi Arabia. The Russians won that one 5-0. And that was there. So that is the World Cup, and let's do the baseball scores here, something we know. The Giants were in Florida. The Giants are 6-3. The Rockets were in Philadelphia. Phillies 9-3 there. The Twins were in the Motor City, and the Tigers 3-1 in that contest. Cleveland was on the south side of Chicago, and Cleveland 5-2. The Astros, a game we tuned into, were in Oakland. Astros 7-3. And the Rays and the Yankees came out on top by 4-1. The Padres in Atlanta 4-2 in Atlanta. And the Mets and D-backs in Arizona, it was D-backs 6-3. And our Red Sox and Mariners out in Seattle. Red Sox held on 2-1. That was an interesting contest there. Mr. David Price finally was the winner. Mr. Kimbrell was the got the save. Mr. Danvers got for loss. So we move, as they say, merrily along here. We'll return with the week for was. We'll talk some more about polling. Hopefully that wasn't too dry and too boring. Mr. Elliott's models there, the two. And we'll give it a little more real time. Now we'll cover tomorrow. We'll talk about Miss Breed out in San Francisco. And also what happened to total cave-in in Seattle with the so-called head count tax. We'll look at that on the week for boss. Then we'll have the Monday morning quarterback. We don't know exactly what will pop on Monday morning. We'll look at some of the talk shows and decide how to frame that. And on our sports program, hopefully we'll try to get that in, all about sports in, and talk about at least the World Cup. And we do have an open source report that's been in the can. So we're a busy weekend around here at WBIM Radio and on the Boston Red Network. Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the week.